as I've spent years like with Bitcoin and thinking about it and working with it and stuff, at first it was just money, it's money, but then I've come to realize I think money is super important, the super important part of it, but I've come to realize that the thing that's super valuable about Bitcoin is the ledger, the block space, because it's this decentralized like ledger. It's this decentralized. There's space on it. There's space on this decentralized ledger that's super secure and verified by all these nodes, and backed by the power of all these miners. And so this space on the blockchain is really valuable, and you pay for it with a fee. Like you can get it for a fee. And so in my view, money was the first killer app built on this block space. Like money is super important to society, and it's a great use case for that block space. But I think there's other things that can be used for that block space. I think it's like I'm super excited, and what I've been working on and building is another use case for that space. So yeah, I mean, I could talk about that. Or
it's interesting. Before we go to spaces, why is that block space so meaningful? So you're seeing the block space of Bitcoin kind of like something bigger than just money. It's just like it's almost like a time chain where you can put things on there, and it's always there for humanity. Is that where we're going with that?
Yeah, you can anchor things in the security of this of that block space. So Bitcoin's like by far the most secure proof of work blockchain. And so the space on it is super valuable because it's where you can store information without a third party, and you can verify that, and like each person can download the whole blockchain, all the transactions, and verify that information is correct without any third party. And so that space is really useful, and it's right now the main use case, and a very important one, maybe the most important one, is money. And that's a great use case. That's a great use of that space, is a ledger for money, to not need a third party to verify transactions. It's all, and it's secured. It's very secure. But I think there's other use cases for it. I think there's other important things in society that could use that would not hurt the use case of money. So I think there's other things that can tap into that and use that space that doesn't hurt the money use case, and that would be really valuable to society.
It's really interesting for me when we look at that, because I think no matter what you do, you cannot hurt the use case of money, even if you like spam the Bitcoin blockchain. Like you pay for that, you basically contribute to the security of Bitcoin. So even if you spam it, even if you put something on the blockchain that doesn't make sense in the beginning, you still contribute to the Bitcoin security overall. So I guess the block space is the representation of the free market. If you can sustain something long term, and there's block space for your project, then it kind of has a legitimacy. It has something that is good on there. At least that's how I see it. But yeah, I'm completely focused on the money part, but yeah, maybe there are some other use cases on that. So tell me, what are you doing with, I think it's called Spaces. What is that, and why do we need it on Bitcoin, and why not somewhere else? Or I think the right now we're doing it with like normal providers of domains, right?
Yeah. So just to give a little bit of background, I got into Bitcoin like 2013, and in 2014 I started a domain name company, Park.io, which was a drop catching service for domain names. And with that, I managed 3 different ICANN accredited registrars. I worked with registries like .io, .ai, and then .com and all that. So I really got to know the domain name industry and all the issues with it. And so, and, tied with my Bitcoin interest, I realized like domain names should definitely be on a blockchain. They're just digital assets. There's no reason that they shouldn't be on a blockchain. Why should you need a third? It's just like with money with banks. Why do you need a third party to tell you what you can do? Or why do you need to rely on a third party for your name? Like you just should not. It's absolutely not necessary. And it's also a huge risk, and it's an urgent need to get it on the blockchain because there's countless examples of like names being taken down, domain names. I mean, I can give you a few examples like .cat, the top level domain .cat for Catalonia. The Spanish government didn't like what some people were posting on some of those domains, so they raided the offices of .cat and arrested the CTO for sedition, and they took down a lot of domains. And that's just one example. Another example is like Squarespace. There's a Squarespace hack. A lot of crypto companies were forced to rely on a third party for their domain name, and it was hacked, and a lot of people lost money because of that. And so, that's just domain names. There's also things with freedom of speech with domain names, so that people, if somebody posts something that somebody else doesn't approve of, they can take it down. Or also just usernames too, like people have their, for example, Twitter name taken away, or on various other social networking sites or stuff, their usernames are taken away. So anyway, I realized like there's no need for this. I mean, another example is like when you encrypt a website with HTTPS, it's encrypted, but for your domain name, you have to rely on a third-party certificate authority, so it's signed with somebody else's keys, So, and there's no need for that, and it's a security risk. So there's this urgent need, and also Bitcoin is relying on domains in some cases. Like there's BIP 353. Matt Corallo put up for human-readable wallet address names, and in it he has a really good. He really thought about it and talked about it, and he was like, it'd be better if there's a decentralized solution, but we don't want to have to rely on like another blockchain like Ethereum for ENS or something. So the best solution that he came up with, but he realized it wasn't ideal, is that DNS. But if somebody's getting, I mean, trust me, I know from managing domain registrars, it's like if somebody's getting a lot of payment to a wallet address that's just tied to DNS, like there's lots of people who could change that besides the owner of the domain name. And also a lot of companies you rely on are not secure enough to rely on that. Like, so yeah, it should just be, it's important. It's an urgent need to have your name. You should just be able to own your name and not have to rely on anybody else or ask permission for anybody else. And so that's what motivated me to start this other company, Impervious. And at first, Impervious was working on other decentralized naming systems like ENS and Handshake. But we came to realize that Bitcoin is by far the most secure proof-of-work blockchain. It should be anchored in Bitcoin. A decentralized naming system should be anchored in Bitcoin. And so we decided, we worked for like the last 2 years working on this new protocol, the Spaces protocol, which you can find at spacesprotocol.org. And it's a protocol built on Bitcoin, and it has cypherpunk ideals. We have no separate token, no separate blockchain, no foundation. We made sure that it's super cypherpunk, and also we kept in mind that even though we're anchoring it in Bitcoin, we're using the block space. We wanted to leave a light footprint, so it doesn't fill up the block space with large amounts of data. We build it really efficient so that it has a light footprint.
How is this working? There's a lot of question mark in my head, obviously, on that, but I'm also not the most technical person. I, in general, ask myself a lot, like, how do we decentralize so many problems that we have? We have like money. When we can decentralize that, we have a big problem solved. Then we have communication, like with Twitter and YouTube. There seems to be Nostr right now. the main one, how we can decentralize that. How is the Spaces protocol? Can I think about that more as a Lightning protocol, or is it more like a Nostr protocol? How does that from a technical standpoint work?
Yeah. So first, it's we designed it to scale, so there's two different levels, two different layers. So it's similar to how traditional domains work. There's like with traditional domains, there's a top level domain like .com or .io or .org, and then there's second level under that like google.com or whatever, or bitcoin.org. So with Spaces, there's top level Spaces which are on the Bitcoin blockchain. That's the part that's stored on the blockchain itself, the name is, and then we designed a way to have second level Spaces. So for example, right now, actually, the name Bitcoin is in auction on the Spaces protocol. And so let's say you get that. You have at Bitcoin. So you have the top level. You win the auction and you get the top level space at Bitcoin. So then you could sell or give away or whatever second level spaces underneath of that. So like you could sell me Mike at Bitcoin. And we have a system to do that with zero knowledge proofs, so that basically I would own Mike at Bitcoin completely, and you would not have any control over it. And so I could use that. I could use Mike at Bitcoin in a completely decentralized way, and it's secured by Bitcoin. And so I could use like Mike at Bitcoin for, like, for example, with BIP353 for wallet payment address. Like you could send me Bitcoin at Mike at Bitcoin, or I could use it for a Nostr username. Like instead of like publishing my npub key, to Twitter and be like, follow me here, this big long string that you have to copy and paste, and there's no way you could remember that. Instead, I could say, oh yeah, follow me on Nostr at Mike at Bitcoin. And for example, you could, resolve like a web page at Mike at Bitcoin, and it could be secured with HTTPS with no third party in between. It'd be encrypted, signed by my keys and stuff. So yeah, those are some of the use cases for it.
I talked with the guy from AIPTC, and I love that example because he just like has a website and Bitcoin. He only accepts Bitcoin payments and he only pays people in Bitcoin. So with that, he's completely outside of the fiat system when it comes to payment and money. So he doesn't need a bank account. He doesn't need a jurisdiction per se because it's just Bitcoin. But the website is still centralized. And if we can also decentralize that, so nobody can take away that website, nobody can take away your money, that would be kind of the future, the vision of the sovereign individual,